what do ECP stands for? ECP means eye care professional. So what do you look out for? So what are the things you can do? And we're going to touch on myopia management options as well, because this is a growing concern now around the world as well. Okay, so first of all, how does vision develops in children? So from newborn all the way until 12 months of age, what do they see? So I'm going to show you a link later on. So main thing is you see from newborn, it's actually all fuzzy. It's just differentiating between light and dark, that's all. Then slowly as the brain develops, as the optic nerve develops, then they start to see more and more details here. Okay. Let me try to go to this link. Hang on. Okay, so as you can see, as the months goes by, 3 months, 4 months, then they start to have depth perception. The one behind gets to be seen.
We can't see your screen.
Oh.
The one that's not the, yeah.
I think I should share the whole screen. Yeah. Can see?
Yes.
So you can see 8 months, 9 months. So as they grow, then things are starting to be more and more detailed, like from the foreground to the background. So let's try again from newborn. It's just black and white, figures. Then slowly the details start coming. Then colors as well, and depth perception. Okay, so that's a GIF that someone made online, which is actually really good. Hang on, let me go back to the talk. So as they grow, they start to develop, and even well past 12 months of age, they are still developing. Like, you know, that the things that you let your child do, all those toys, all that, where they are grabbing stuff, all that, is kind of training them to refine their motor skills as well. So even from 12 months beyond, they are still trying to grow all these impulses, all that as well, to recognize shapes, to recognize objects, and how do they change focus from far to near. So that's why the activities you give them to do is important. But it helps to train their motor skills, coloring, all that, whether are they coloring inside the square, inside the area, all that, or are they following lines. So nowadays it's a bit different, because I think a lot of us, if you look around you, a lot of adults are actually introducing gadgets, screen times to their kids, even when they're very, very young. But there's a danger in it as well, because studies have also shown that with increased screen time and at too early an age, they're kind of interfering with all this development. So there are some studies that show that these kids actually have lesser motor skills. I mean, in turn, in long term, it also affects their eye contact with people, their social skills as well, their interaction, all that. So like when you grow up, maybe the way they problem solve, their creativity, all that might be affected as well. Okay, so what are the common concerns of kids' vision now? Like, for example, now if you're looking at your child, does their eyes look crossed? Like, are you worried about it? Do they have a eye turn or something like that? Something wrong with the muscles? And some of the kids, maybe their eyes are really, really watery. Sometimes even tears flow out as well. Or are they rubbing their eyes a lot? Or are they really squinting, blinking, squeezing a lot also? So these are some signs that some of us might have noticed, and you might be worried as well. Like, do they have a vision concern? It can also be allergy issues, like if your kid has eczema issues, sinuses issue. It's also linked to the eyes, because at the back of the eye we have a canal that actually links to the back of the nose and then to the back of the throat as well. So all these are interlinked. So especially when you have sensitivity, blocked nose, all that, it also affects the eyes. Or it can be the eyelashes are actually not growing properly, rubbing against the eyes and causing them discomfort. So of course, usually at such a young age, you will be seeing pediatricians regularly, and they do screen for eyesight for major issues, like for example, there's opacity or the eyes doesn't look clear. They will have refer you to a pediatric ophthalmologist already. Another thing that we need to be concerned on, like I mentioned before, is also on screen time. Now it's really too much screen times already. So what's the recommendation? Usually for babies age 3 and below, at your pediatrician, they should regularly check your child's eyes, like whether are they following targets properly, do they respond to stimulus, like things with patterns, things with very bright colors, they usually draw their attention to it. So they mainly look out for childhood issues, congenital issues like these eye diseases that they are born with. So there are quite rare diseases like tumor or congenital cataract or that. More simpler kind is usually they're looking for cross eyes, whether the eyes are turned. Is it truly turned, or is it because of Asian eyes? You know, we have the way our eyes are shaped. Sometimes it makes us look like we have cross eyes once we are born, but it's not. So that one you need a pediatrician or optometrist or ophthalmologist to check it out. It can be just a pseudo kind of screen. So when they are age 3 and above, so usually every 1 to 2 years, it's encouraged that they should check their eyes during routine checkups, or if they're already wearing glasses, then they should actually update their prescription, all that as well. Okay, and closer to home in Singapore context, we have a national myopia prevention program. It started in 2001 in view of the high prevalence of myopic children in Singapore. So back then, the government has already realized that myopia is a growing concern in Singapore. In fact, now in Asia, all around Asia, China, Hong Kong, all that, we are kind of like a myopia hub in Asia now, which is not a really good title to have. So the aim of WHO now is really to prevent the onset of myopia and to reduce the prevalence and to slow it down as well. So myopia, in fact, now is a growing pandemic, not only COVID. The whole world is actually very concerned about it as well. So in Singapore per se, the vision screening is actually part of the annual health screening. So K1, K2, P1 onwards, or that every year the school health service will actually go down to the school to check their eyesight as well. So once they fail a certain line, which is the 612 line, they'll be referred to the health promotion board, which is the one at Outram. Some of your kids might have been there. There used to be refraction clinics at some of the polyclinics as well. So from there, the optometrists will check their eyesight, do all the screening tests, all that, and there will be a prescription if they are found to be myopic, hyperopic, or they have astigmatism. If it's just a simple case of correcting the refractive error, the prescription script will be given out and you just go out to make spectacles for them. But if during the examination, they find that they have some other issues, underlying issues, then they will be referred to the government hospitals to see the pediatric ophthalmologist. So this is kind of how you can get into the network. Of course, if at a younger age you already notice that their eyes are turned or that, then you might have sought out your own private ophthalmologist as well. Okay, here I would like to introduce to you all the eye care professions in Singapore. So in short form, we call them ECPs. So there's the optician, optometrist, and ophthalmologist. So optician, I think at some point of time, we will have came across, like when I was young, the first person to check my eyes is an optician. So back then, they don't have optometrists actually. So in Singapore, we actually have an OOB board, which stands for Optometrists and Opticianry Board. So this regulates the profession of opticians and optometrists. It's introduced in 2007. So under this board, we have a practicing act that defines what we allow or not allowed to do. So opticians in Singapore are mainly divided into two groups. We have the dispensing and we have the refraction. So there's a group of optometrists who are opticians who are licensed to do refraction as well. So they are allowed to check your power fit glasses for you, even for children as well, but only until the age of 8 years old. So 8 years and younger, they should be seen by an optometrist. So outside in the community, there are also optometrists who specialize in pediatrics. They are comfortable seeing newborns, few months old babies, or that any age. And of course, there are optometrists who are not comfortable with it. So they wouldn't call themselves pediatric optometrists. So here I would like to invite everyone to think of optometrists as like a GP, but in terms of eye. So they should be the first person that you go to in terms of general everything, eye questions, burning eye questions. In most of the practices now, they are actually all very well equipped. So we have equipment to look at the front part of your eye and the back part of your eye. And we also have the knowledge, years of education. Some of us are university trained as well, even masters, PhD. So we are able to manage stable eye conditions. if you need surgery, if there's an emergency, something that you need to go for surgery for, or something that need medication, then the optometrist will refer you to the ophthalmologist, which is the eye surgeon. So it can be in the hospital or outside private ones as well. And don't underestimate our eyeball. Although it's so small, it's actually divided into different portions, anterior, posterior, and even ophthalmologists have different specialization. So some concentrate on the front, some concentrate on the back, some deals better with screens and strabismus, some deals better with cornea cases, all that. So that's why actually we are a better person to refer you to, because we know who specializes in what. So where is the place to go? So you don't have to go to one doctor and then it turns out that he doesn't deal with this, he refer you to another doctor. Okay, so usually when you go to eye care professionals, that when they are looking at kids, maybe what are they looking out for? Because you know the eye development is also linked to the brain, because a lot of things is you need the stimulation in order to our visual cortex to develop as well. So mainly are the eyes aligned? Are the eyes healthy and clear? Or are they seeing well? Is there prescription? Just as simple as a refractive error being corrected, that's all. Or is it something more where there's cataract or there's something wrong with the visual pathway? So typically when you go to an eye care professional, you're going to check the vision, of course. They're also going to look at eye movements. So it's also looking at how the eye moves together, whether are they moving in sync where you're chasing a target, whether they are focusing properly, all that as well. Color vision, even the depth perception as well. And optometrists will also look at the eye health, so the front part of the eye, the back part of the eye from instruments like this, like over here. Okay, so the guidelines from American Academy of Pediatrics on screen time. So these are the things that maybe you can take note at home now. So children under 18 years, under 18 months, you should avoid screen time totally, because like what I said initially, they actually interfere with some of the fine motor skills development. So 18 months and above, up to 2 years of age, you should limit to educational programs, but with an adult beside, so that you can teach them and interact with them at the same time. So 2 to 5 years old, no more than 1 hour a day of screen time. And 6 years and above, by then you should have introduced consistent limits, like how many hours should they spend, they should take a break, and what kind of social media they are looking through now. So any other little things, okay, visual, and the thing to take note is whether is it children now, even adults ask as well, because this one I'm actually using the same slides as my other talks on eye strains, all that, is to practice good visual hygiene. That means we need to have good visual habits. And that is a 20-20-20 rule that everywhere has been talking about. So with every 20 minutes of task, you should take a break. 20 seconds, just look far away. So if you feel that 20 minutes is like too short, okay, make it 30, 30, 30, 30. So the idea is take a break to break that connection in a way, because you're focusing so hard at this fixed distance. Even us adults work from home, all these Zoom meetings, all that, we're just looking and stuck at this distance here, sitting with this kind of posture, and sometimes we slouch as well, and you're typing away, so your arms, your wrists. So this is not a good lifestyle, definitely. So just take a break, look far away. And if you have nothing to do, don't play with your phone, please. Do something with your hands, just by stretching all that, because all that typing, all that wrist movement, you also need to move a little bit while you're looking far out of the window. So if you can, you have more time, of course, stand up and walk around. If you have no time, 20 seconds, just look far out of the window, move your hands, stretching, open and close. All these nerves at the ends of our fingertips, at least stimulate them. Another thing to know is, of course, your posture. So how are you sitting? So even same, adults as well. How are we looking at our laptop? Whether it's the height appropriate? Are you giving yourself a neck ache? Are you giving yourself a shoulder ache? So same, adults and children is the same thing. So proper chair, proper height, and for laptops, so that if you need to, buy something to prop up the screen. And there's a recommended working distance as well. So just like adults, there is a distance where we are more comfortable looking at, reading at. So for kids, they have a tendency to go closer and closer and closer to the screen. So as a guideline, from the elbow, just like this picture shown here, from the elbow to the knuckle, the third knuckle, This should be the bare minimum. So they shouldn't go lower than this. And even our government, I mean, over the years, they have been advocating to keep myopia at bay. So you should go outdoors and play. So you see, all this information are telling you to spend more time outdoors, go for walks, go to the playground, and less time on the computer work or that. Even last year, in fact, SNEC also launched a book, a pictorial storybook to educate children, Amanda the Panda, to give tips on advocate outdoor play to keep myopia at bay as well. So this has been ongoing actually ever since the National Myopia Prevention Program. What other things that we can look up, we should do is to ensure that every one of us, not only children, we should have enough sleep, eat well-balanced diet for nutrition as well. So a healthy body, a healthy mindset as well, so that it will affect your eyes at the same time. So not only just taking care of your eyes. Okay, so we need to think a little bit on now. Are we just correcting myopia itself? Just give them a pair of glasses, okay, they can see well, can already. Next year, then we see how it goes. Or it's time to think about myopia control now. Okay. So from the World Health Organization, now they're trying to prevent the onset of high myopia because from years of research and cases that they have seen, every 1 diopter, that means every 100 degree of increased myopia, will increase the risk of other irreversible pathological diseases. So like, for example, here, if you see, if your myopia is low, just 100, 300 degrees, the risk of you getting all the other eye conditions is very low, like 2 times, 3 times. But once you have high myopia, over 600 degrees, the risk increases exponentially until like 41 times like that. So myopic eye is also a very elongated eyeball. So you think of it, as your eyeball grows longer and longer and longer, the integrity is compromised. You're stretching it thinner and thinner. Of course, it's not like our eyes is going to burst, but because it's so thin, there is a risk of developing holes, developing tears at the back of the eye. And that, of course, will lead to other irreversible eye conditions, eye diseases as well. So these are consolidated from many, many studies where they have identified the risk factors involved. So when you scan this QR code also, you can actually go online and enter some of the questions that they ask to assess the risk, like how fast is the progression. So if you can see from here, number 1, so one of the risk factors, the age is younger than 13 years old. So because when they're very young, they grow very fast. So the progression is definitely faster. Second, family history of myopia. So at least one myopic parent. I think a lot of us here are, some of them, sometimes even both of us are myopic. And number 3, ethnicity. So East Asian. So you're Asian, automatically kind of your progression is fast already. Number 4, so the time spent outdoors is less than 2.5 hours. I think a lot of us are guilty of that as well. And number 5, the time spent on near work is more than 2.5 hours. Kind of pretty true as well for Asia now. Number 6, the refractive error is less plus refraction than expected for age. Okay, this just means that because when kids are growing up, they're usually plus, they are hyperope. So it's when they are growing taller, they're growing longer, then their prescription change. So there will be less and less plus, and then at one point of time, they'll change to the minus side. So there is a means, like usually at what age they should be like +4. So by maybe when they are 5 or 6, they will be 0 already, something like that. But a lot of the kids that we see nowadays, sometimes when they are 4 years old, they are already like -3. So that is definitely a high risk for progression of myopia. So this chart will tell you, like for example here, we look at this blue line here. If the child before age of 7, no prescription, 0, perfect eyesight. But at the age of 7, he's a -1 now. -1 diopter, that means 100 degrees short-sighted. So there is a natural progression. You look at this graph here. So as you age, as they grow up, the myopia will get higher and higher and higher. And the most steeper point is always when they are younger at this point of time. So as they grow older, you can see the curve climbs or tapers a little bit. It's not as steep. So this graph is telling you the later the onset, the better. So if they start wearing glasses only at 9 years old with a -1, so by the time they reach 16 years old, they're about a -4. So it's also telling us that means once they start, you should actually consider to intervene as early as possible to stop this progression. So instead of a sharp decline here, it can be a more tapered one when you introduce myopia control options at an earlier age. So this is another table that is telling you most of the eye care professionals were also looking at cell length. So what do I mean by cell length? Is measuring the length of the eyeball from the front to the back. So remember, I was saying myopia, as it get higher and higher, your eyeball is going longer and longer and longer. So there is a progression as well because kids are growing up. So there is a mean change where the length should be growing because they're growing taller as well, growing up as well. And for refractive error as well. So when they are a myope, there is also a mean progression. Like every year around 100, if you see here, is about minus 1.12, then minus 0.94, also around one diopter, minus 0.78. But as they get older, the progression will slow down. It's like maybe 50 change already by then. So that's why it's important to do something when they are young, not when they are this age. Okay, so what are the options now available? So there are different options, which later we will go through. But what I want to highlight here is, whatever the options is, evaluate your source. They'll be mentioned in WHO, MLH will support it. Some of the devices, HSA will have approved it. And OOB is what I was talking about, the Optometrist and Opticianry Board. So we are all licensed and trained professionals who can prescribe glasses, contact lenses, all that, and carry out some of the treatments. So all these treatments is based on evidence-based medicine over the years. And ongoing now, they're still reviewing some of the studies because there are also new products coming out. In fact, this week is ARVO, which they are doing some big conference in the US, but now everything is through Zoom as well. So there are new information that is coming out at the same time. So this slide, what I want to highlight is, you might be aware of last year, there are some cases that made the news, all that, because there are companies that claims that they can correct myopia, they can get rid of eyeglasses, all that just by doing these exercises or buying this machine or making your kids go through certain treatments, all that. Okay, they are not medically trained. They don't even employ opticians or optometrists. So how do they know there's something wrong with their eyes? So there are some lawsuits that is ongoing now. So please evaluate your sources. Even if you want to go from TCM point of view, you should go to a proper TCM practitioner because there are indeed some acupuncture points that are associated with myopia. But even a TCM practitioner will also tell you they need to wear your glasses. They need to be corrected first. Because if they're not seeing well, their brain is not going to develop well as well because they're constantly stimulated by blur images. So how is their brain going to discern what is clear? So please look for the correct advices to listen to as well. Okay, so we will go through some of the myopia management options that is legitimate now.
Thank you, Cleo. I did not actually share my background in myopia management. So in 2016, I took on a job in the world's largest manufacturer of spectacle lens, and my job was really to, find a way where we could really educate parents, about myopia management rather than just wearing normal glasses that do not help to slow down progression. So in that 3 years, I spent a lot of time, attending all the conferences that Cleo talked about, speaking to all the professionals in the world about this. And of course, there are different schools of thought. Now, atropine in Singapore is prescribed by the ophthalmologists only. You cannot go to an optometrist or an optician for the eye drops, right? So what it does is it basically, helps to slow down progression. Again, every child responds differently. And in terms of concentration, right, of how the eye drops, concentration of eye drops, typically now we put at 0.01% so that there would be lesser side effects, which you can see on the slide. And again, it's dependent on every child, right, how they respond to it. I mean, bear in mind that it is a medicinal kind of intervention, so the long-term side effects, it's still not clear. But it has proven, to be effective in slowing down progression for most children. Next. Another, more, I would say, intrusive form of myopia management option is what we call specialized spectacle lenses. So there are a few brands out there today. What I've highlighted here is the one that's upcoming. It hasn't launched yet. So you might want to wait till July, where they're going to do a broad launch. And what it does is it's a lens that's made up of many small circles, right? And your kid's supposed to look through the center to see far. And the sides are supposed to help to stop the eyeball from growing. And we talked about how when the eyeball grows, your myopia increases. And so what happened is, in the past 20 years, the manufacturers have become, more and more innovative with how they do the designs. So last time it used to be very ugly, like a line, in the center bifocals, or progressives that adults used to wear. But now it's really catered, to children, and they have tested with many, many, many clinical trials in different parts of the world. Next. For those of you with kids who are perhaps more active, especially those who do like outdoors, then they can consider what we call a daily disposable contact lenses. This is daytime wear, right? So what they do is they wear it in the morning and they take it off, at night, and they don't need to worry about washing because it's daily disposable. So that can really help, in terms of infection controls and comfort, in the sense that you don't need have something on your face. The only disadvantage is obviously because you have a monthly need for it, it will cost more than eyeglasses. Just to give you a sense of pricing, right? A myopia management spectacle lenses would cost about $500, right? Plus minus, the best ones. My site, I think they're selling for about 1,500 a year, right? So if you divide by a month, that's about 100 plus a month, right? So that's a huge difference. The difference between contact lenses and spectacle lenses is, of course, the contact lenses are right on your eye. So the likelihood of control and compliance is higher because, you can't keep taking it on and off, unlike glasses. Next. Some of you may have heard of this. This is very popular among people who don't want to wear glasses, any form of glasses at all. Because what you do is you wear the hard contact lenses to sleep at night, right? It flattens your cornea. And then when you wake up in the day after 8 hours sleep, wow, you see perfectly. You don't need any form of eyewear. And it's also supposed to help control myopia as well. The challenge here is you need to have enough sleep and you need to be very clean because this is hard lenses where you wear for 1 or 2 years. So you need to make sure that your kid, has proper hygiene. And you cannot be moving, rubbing your eyes at night. Obviously, that wouldn't work. So what I understand, is the ophthalmologists are always very concerned about this because they say that we've seen infections, right, coming through from people who wear ortho. Okay, so again, it really depends on, your child. Next. So yes, moves on, and this fits in nicely with this, message about what is the best solution for your child, right? First of all, as you saw it earlier in the slides, what is the power they have now? What's the progression, in recent years? Is it 100 degrees every year or is it slow, right? It doesn't mean that if it's slow now, that it will always remain slow, right? But you can consider different options. If it's fast, right, what is very popular now is what they call combination treatment. So it's eye drops plus either eyeglasses or eyeglasses or contact lenses, right? So it's kind of a dual effect of myopia control. Of course, efficacy depends from child to child, not just product to product, right? So that's something that you have to be prepared for. It cannot be that once you put the child on a solution, myopia doesn't progress at all. That's possible, but not all the time. And so it could be, instead of progressing at 100 degrees, they progress at 50, or they progress less than that. And that can be considered already to be a success, right? Because if you remember the curve, you don't want them to hit high myopia, which can lead to eye diseases later in life. Again, we talked about sports, hygiene, and what the parents can supervise, you know, like maybe overnight contact lenses you're at home to make sure that the child puts in, right? Glasses is of course easier, but contact lenses in the day, then you need to make sure that the child, you know, doesn't like rub his eyes in the day or try to take out with dirty hands in the middle of a school day, and there's nothing you can do, you know, to stop that. Next. Cleo,
Okay.
I'll hand it back.
Yeah. So this picture is actually trying to tell you that it's like a race in a sense. So to do something is better than doing nothing. So from low myopia all the way to high myopia, by just correcting them, just giving them a pair of glasses that let them see the line they're supposed to see, they will progress for sure. So they'll hit high myopia in years to come. But once you start introducing something, be it the eye drop, contact lenses, or specialized glasses like the products that Waywen had said, they have different efficacy. And also because depending on your current risk factors, it also affects the efficacy as well. That's why it varies quite a lot. So as long as you're doing something, they are not going to reach this point that fast. At least you're slowing it down actually. Okay, so this is kind of just to give you an idea what does a comprehensive eye examination for a child looks like. So just like what I've been talking about for adults as well, some things are similar. So definitely we'll check the vision, we'll check the power as well. Okay, so you might have heard the talk also. They were saying, oh, outside, not accurate one because they don't put eye drop. You need to go to the hospital, then they can put eye drop and check. But it's not really true in a sense because optometrists, like what I said, we're allowed to check kids of all ages. So below 8 optometrists, not optician. But typically, why do we do a cycloplegia? As in, why do we put in the eye drops? It's mainly, even in the hospitals itself, it's only for first timers. First time when they come in, the doctors will want a cycloplegia refraction. Subsequently, follow-ups, they actually don't do it unless there's an alarm bell sound. Like for example, the power just keep going very, very high. Like next year, I see a kid again, it's 150, 200 more. Then yes, they'll do a cycloplegia refraction again. Otherwise, it's just normal refraction year after year as well, especially when they stabilize. So mainly the idea is to relax the eye muscles so that the kids doesn't accommodate. So what we mean by accommodate is they are actually really using all their willpower or eye power to try to squeeze that line. And sometimes it gives us a false answer, as in they need more than usual. But we can actually tell. So when we check the eyes, we already know that, oh, the accommodation is very strong. So I need to put in eye drops in order to relax to get a better power. So sometimes there are kids which the accommodation is not strong as well because we do measure that. So there's no need for cycloplegia refraction. So this is not done every time, even when you see the doctor. So other things that we check is binocular vision, like how well the two eyes are actually moving in terms of in relative for each other. The color vision, the pupil response. So intraocular pressure, all these onwards is like any other eye check for adults as well. So you look at the intraocular pressure, the eye pressure, look at the front part of the eye, the anterior part, the posterior part, that means inside the eyes as well, to look for any eye diseases. And overall, of course, there's management, like what is wrong, what should you do, what is the next step, those kind of things. So same thing as adults. If there's any eye diseases that is suspected or diagnosed, you will have been referred for other management as well. So if there's an eye disease, it should be treated first. Myopia management will come later. So if the child's eyes are healthy, it's really just myopia and you're worried about myopia progression, then yes, you might need to start thinking about what kind of treatment the optometrist will kind of like introduce to you, like the things that Waywen had said about. Is it spectacles? Is it contact lenses? Or maybe you want to go to see an ophthalmologist to have eye drops prescribed as well. So whatever treatment it is, there'll be, of course, baseline measurement, even in the hospital. They'll measure the cell length as well, the length of the eyeball. Then 6 months or yearly, they'll follow up and see how is it growing. Even when it's growing, is it within the norm? Because remember, they are growing. So yeah, it's supposed to get longer, but it's not supposed to grow that much, you see. So there are norms that we'll compare to. Does it make sense for their age or for that kind of prescription as well? So contact lens per se, then of course you have to teach the child how to clean the lenses, how to put in the lenses, take out the lenses, those kind of things. And from there, mainly is follow up and evaluate whether the treatment is working. Is it slowing down or is it stable? So like what we will say, even just by slowing down, like next year it's not 100 degrees increase, only a 50, it's actually a little bit, it's a little success in itself already. Okay, so overall message, same for children, same for adults, is to take care of your eye health, take care by maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So eat well, exercise, all that, practice good habits. Don't smoke, please, for adults. So when you're wearing your glasses, all that, you should look into some kind of protection as well, because you're looking at the screen so much. So maybe a UV coating, anti-reflection, anti-glare, those kind of thing, anything that helps to cut off the glare. So even blue light protection as well to reduce the eye strain. So for children, we are mainly concentrating on myopia control options. And the key is to have regular eye examinations, be it for children or for adults, because there are also underlying eye diseases that is affecting all of us. Sometimes seeing clearly does not mean that your eyes are healthy. Yeah? You need